My name is CPA Dr. David Muturi, and our conversation today is going to be around effective communication. Now, communication is one of the most important aspects of any human relationship, and particularly in the workplace, where there needs to be a lot of coordination and a lot of understanding so that the organization can function and the teams can function effectively to achieve the organizational objectives. And therefore, as a manager, one of the most important aspects that you must be aware of and develop is how to effectively communicate with your team and with your employees in the organization. Now, when you have effective communication, there are several benefits. And number one is that you avoid time-wasting conflict. Conflict, and conflicts typically comes down to misunderstanding or feeling misunderstood. Now, when you don't have effective communication, there are people who will misunderstand issues. The communication will be effective. Others will feel they're going to be misunderstood, and therefore there's going to be conflict within the team that is going to end up wasting time and not enabling the organizational objective. You also find that conflict due to ineffective communication will be brought about by not understanding how other people communicate. Different people have different communication processes and styles, and therefore without effective communication you'll find that there's going to be a lot of conflict arising due to different communication processes. And therefore, the way one person communicates might not be the way another person communicates, and that is going to bring in unnecessary conflict. Now, you'll also find that the conflict, as a result of ineffective communication, is where someone may feel that their emotional needs are not being met or they are being disregarded. And therefore, when they feel that they are being disregarded and the emotional feelings are not being paid attention to, you get unnecessary conflict. So those are conflicts that can be avoided by effective communication. So when you have effective communication, you avoid those kind of conflict. When you have effective communication, you increase the employee engagement, because communication is more than just talking. It is a creation of the connection. That is, you communicate through the spoken, you communicate through the written, you communicate through the body language, and therefore communication is not just about the talking. It's about the whole action, or a whole act of creating a connection with another person. And therefore, when there is effective communication, when there is good communication, you increase employee engagement by the creation of that connection. It gives better understanding of the needs and goals of the people that you're working with. You understand each other. They understand you. You understand them, and they understand their goals in the workplace and how they are aligned to the organizational goals. It also allows a better motivation and fulfills the employees. That is, when there is effective communication, people will feel that there is trust in the organization. They feel that they are important, they are part of the organization, and therefore they feel engaged and they feel most motivated. Effective communications also provide an opportunity to understand the employee's talent. That is, when there is effective communication, you are able to get to know the kind of talent that you have in the house, because there is good connection. Like we said, communication is beyond just talking. So when there is that connection, people will expose the various gifts and talents that they have that can be utilized for the purposes of of achieving the organizational objective. Of course, when you have effective communication, you create better client relationship. You mitigate and resolve conflict with the client. You understand their needs. You help the customer to feel understood. And even if there is new information that needs to be presented to the customers, when you have effective communication, it is going to be delivered or presented in a way that is going to be understood, and that is the way is going to be seen as a way that can improve, or it is intended to improve the services or the goods that you are providing to the client. When you have effective communication, you also improve the productivity, because very little time is going to be wasted in unnecessary conflict. Very little time is going to be wasted in repeating communications, or in terms of correcting things that may have gone wrong as a result of ineffective communication. Indeed, when you have effective communication, you also create an innovative, creative environment where people feel safe to bring out their ideas that can be utilized. And when people feel safe to bring in new ideas, to bring in creative ideas, as a manager, you can be able now to focus more on strategic team building. Because when you understand the communication patterns of your team, and they also understand your communication pattern, then you are able to make strategic decisions, like on delegation. You're able to make strategic decisions like employee development, the team development, and the strategic initiatives that you can be able to adopt as a team. Because you have effective communication, you have a connection, you are able to listen, and listen in quote, because we said not just about the talking, but to listen to each other. You can be able to gauge the level of engagement, the level of interest, the level of trust, and the level of the feeling of belonging when there is effective communication. So when you're an effective communicator, or for you to be able to be an effective communicator, you do well to ask yourself, what are do you have any communication barriers within the team and within the organization? Is there anything that is coming in between us in terms of communication? And barriers are many. It can be language, that's a fundamental issue. It can be cultural differences. It can be generational differences. It can be trust issues. And therefore, you need to ask yourself, do I have any barriers that are making the communication not effective, or that are causing misunderstanding, or that are causing the communication not to be received in the way that it ought to be? And I said some of the basic barriers. You can have the language barrier. That's a very basic one. When you're not using the same language, it can be a generational barrier. Now, generational barrier, particularly like now, when you may have the Generation X, the millennials, and the other generations working together, that can be a communication barrier. So you do well to ask yourself as a manager, do I have a communication barrier? And how is it that I can be able then to surmount that barrier, so that our communication can be effective? And I find that particularly when it's come to the issue of the trust, and then that is a barrier that you have with communication. Possibly people who are holding information, they don't want to give information for different reasons. They feel that if they give the information, they are going to be vulnerable. Those kind of things are what you're saying should be identified as communication barriers. You also ask yourself, what is the ultimate communication goal? What is it that I want to communicate? That is, what is it that I want to achieve every time I'm making a communication, or every time I need to create that connection? What is the objective, or what is the goal that I intend to achieve? And how is it that I'm going to then make sure that my goal is achieved in spite of How am I going to be able to take care of the barriers that might be there? You may also want to ask yourself, who is your audience? And are there any prejudices which can affect the way that communication or the connection is created? So it is important to be able to understand your audience so that you can be able to see how you can be able to craft your communication. Then you may want to ask yourself, what is the key message? That is, what is it? Every time you are communicating, it is important to ask yourself, what is the key thing that I want to get across to the team, to the team members? What is the issue that I want to address? Then once you're able to do this, you'll be able to craft the appropriate messages. You're going to be able to know how you're going to be able to surmount the various barriers that exist, and that way you can be able to be very effective in your communication. Now, it is when you talk about communication, and we say it is not just about what has been spoken. It is also it is a creation of a connection with the team members. That's why you may find it helpful with the proven fact of research that when you're communicating, only 7% of the effectiveness of the communication is done through the words that you use. 7% of the communication is by the words that you use. 38% is the tone that you use, the tone that you adopt when you are communicating. Now that makes 45%. A whole 55% of the effectiveness of the communication is the body language. And the body language here is the entire of yourself, the gestures that you make, the facial expression, if it is a face-to-face that you have. Even the dressing that you have is part of the communication, and therefore you'll find that it is very important to mind your body language, because the body language, like we said, it contributes to 55% of the communication. And here, the body language will even include walking the talk. That is, you say one thing, but you do something that is entirely different. But speaking of the body language, the gestures that you use, you may be talking to your team when you are pocketing. Possibly they would think that that is a sign of arrogance or disrespect, or you're not taking whatever it is that you're saying very seriously. Your facial expression, you see, you may say something very important, but your face may not demonstrate conviction. That is, they can be able to see that you're not convinced yourself in terms of what you're saying, and therefore, regardless of the words, the suitability of the word, so to put it, the facial expression that you put on your face clearly indicates that you do not believe, or you're not very convinced about what you're saying. Your dressing. See, your dressing, the way that you dress is also a communication in itself. That is, will your team leaders with your team members want to associate with you the way that you are dressed? Because they are looking up to you as a leader, or they are looking up to you as a manager. So would they like to be associated with you, maybe in the way that you're dressed? If they would not want to be associated with you, you can be sure the communication is not going to be very effective. But if they would want to be associated with you because of the way that you dress, then the communication is going to be effective. So it is important to pay attention to the body language. the gestures, the facial expression, the dressing, and postures that you adopt, including distracting habits. And talking about distracting habits, you find that some people have those habits that they show or demonstrate when they are speaking, possibly scratching their heads or doing other habits that some of them are even comical or amusing, where the team members might be saying, just wait and see, just wait and see, you're just about to, A, B, C, D. So distracting behavior during communication, you'll find that will distract the effectiveness of the communication. So what are we saying? We've said in communication, it's not just about talking. It is about creating a connection. And creating of that connection, it's a proven fact of science that 7% of the effectiveness will be contributed by the words that you use. 38% will be contributed by the tone, and 55% by the body language. And we've spoken about the body language and the various gestures and the dressing. Now the tone, there are many different tones. You see, tones communicate the moods, communicates the attitude. And we have said they'll contribute to 38% of the effectiveness. And there are many tones. You may not be able to exhaust the various forms of tone, but there can be a tone of something like authoritative. You speak with authority, and there'll be time that tone will be very important when you adopted an authoritative tone. There are some times that you may need to be caring. There are times that you'll need to have a cheerful tone. There are times that you would require a conversational tone. There'll be the time that the conversation will have to be formal. There are times it will have to be friendly, and sometimes it can be even fun, can be enthusiastic. It is important to pay attention to the tone that you're adopting with every communication. Because if, say, you are, and basically in an office setup, there'll be some times you'll want to empower people. So when you are empowering the people, or the intention of the communication or the intention of the conversation is to empower, then you'll have to adopt the empowering tone. There are some other times that you'll want to persuade. Now, when you're persuading, when you're attempting to get a buy-in into a new idea or into a new project, then you'll have to use that tone. Then there are other times that you may want to, like I said, to be authoritative. And you see, when you need to be authoritative, then you'll have to adopt that particular form of tone. And I said there are very many forms of tone, but it is important. What is important is to pay attention to the tone that you're adopting for a particular type of communication. So effective communicators have about 7 qualities. And you find that the qualities of good communicators will be around the words that they use, will be around the tone that they use, and will be around the body language that they have. And you will find that great communicators, number one, they will know their audience. They'll take time to understand and know their audience. And when you talk about knowing the audience here, one may argue, I have known these my colleagues for the last 5 years, for the last 10 years. So what else do I need to know? It is important to have an even better understanding of your audience, particularly when you have known them for a little bit of time, because some of the jokes that you may even crack within the team, or some of the attitudes that you may adopt within the team, might be quite reverse or opposite of what those people believe in. And then you may find that whenever maybe that kind of a joke comes up, those people automatically switch off, and therefore those people will not be as engaged, or the team will not be as cohesive because of those divergent views. But it is important, another point, to understand and to know their audience. Great communicators will be experts in their body language. That is, they will know what gestures to use at the appropriate time. They will know the dress code to adopt at different times. They know how to listen, and to listen actively. So they just don't talk all the time, or they are the ones who are giving the communication, but rather they listen. So they are active listening, because listening is also part of the body language. Because if somebody comes to you and is speaking to you, and you're not even giving them time to say what they have, or they can see you're not listening to them, because one can be able to see when you're actually listening or when you are pretending to be listening. You find that now good communicators will be very particular about even how they listen. Now, good communicators are also honest and authentic. They are honest and authentic. Now, honest in the sense that they mean what they say, and they actually demonstrate that they mean what they say. They are authentic in the sense that you don't have to second guess them. That is, whatever it is that they say, whatever it is that they communicate, and how they project themselves, that is who they are. It's not double standard. That they say, they speak with both sides of the mouth. They say A at this time, they say B at another time, because they are not honest or authentic. So if you're to be an effective manager, an effective communicator, you'll be an honest person who is authentic, who is not second-guessed by the team, in terms of, he may say A when with this team, say B with this other team, and when he goes or she goes to the bosses, says something that is entirely different. Then good communicators appeal to the heart and the mind. Now, the heart and the mind, you know, the emotion, but at the same time ensuring that right decisions are to be made out of the conversations or the communication. But they are able to appeal to the affective domain, what we refer to as the affective domain in psychology. That is that part of the mind, or that part of the human being that is emotional, and therefore they appeal to the heart, the emotion, but they also appeal to the mind and the heart. So they combine both of them to make sure that the audience is convinced about what it is at hand. They speak with authority. When you speak with authority, it's also an extension of the body language, is an extension of the tone that we said. Because when you speak with authority, it shows that you understand what you're saying and you're convinced about what you're saying. In some organization, you'll find a manager saying, we were told, he went or she went to a meeting, and there was a communication. And then she'll go to tell the subordinate, we were told. Instead of saying, we have agreed that we need to do X, Y, Z because it is important for this and that other reason. Now, the moment you say we are told, it means that you have taken the authority from yourself. It means that the authority is elsewhere. And therefore, whatever it is that you're saying, you find that the people would want to hear it from those other authority rather than yourself. So you speak with authority as part of the team that may have made that decision. Then you speak to group. They speak to groups as individuals. There's that connection. We said communication is not just about talking. It's about creating a connection. And therefore, when you speak to a group, it is as if you're talking to an individual, because you're not just generalizing, but at least you make eye contact, which is important, and making the eye contact demonstrate that actually you would want that person to understand what you're saying, and also to clarify with you if there is any issue that needs to be clarified. So you engage eye contact, you demonstrate that you are part of the audience. It is only that for the time being you have been given the forum or the podium or that position to communicate whatever it is that your communication. So that way it will almost seem like it was one-to-one conversation. Now, good communicators, they have ears and they use them. They have ears and they use them because they deliberately seek for feedback. They are proactive. They would like to know whether whatever they have communicated has been understood and how it has been understood. And therefore, they continuously seek feedback. They continuously solicit how to get to know how that information that they have communicated has been understood. And when you have those qualities, or when you endeavor to cultivate those qualities, then you become an effective communicator. It is also very important to remember that leadership is all about communication, because if you cannot communicate the vision that you have, if you cannot communicate the way forward and give direction in an effective way, then it means that you're not providing the leadership. And therefore, as a leader, as a manager, one of the qualities that you have to really work hard on is on effective communication. And that is the end of our 6th episode. Thank you and see you next time.